Hi, welcome to Bonney Bags. My name is Uni. Last video I made a little wallet with leftover strips or scraps from cork and vinyl that I had. And I thought that was so colorful and fun that I thought I would do the same on a toiletry bag. So that's what I've done. So I've made these toiletry bags and they're pretty large. They can have a lot of stuff in them. Here's one version without the top side panel. So it's a little shorter. And here are the two other versions. And you see, I have been playing with strips. It's so much fun that I'm not only using my scraps because I've always used them. I'm making new strips just because it's so fun to work with so many colors. These toiletry bags are pretty cool and you can have a lot of stuff in them. As you see, it has a little stripe, colorful stripes on the top. This is quilted and the bottom is quilted. This bottom is blue because it doesn't get dirty so fast when you put it on sinks and whatnot. So you open this bag like that. Inside this lid, you have a zipper pocket of mesh. And in this toiletry bag, I have two individual zipper pouches that you can have, for instance, makeup in or jewelry, different stuff like that. One on each side of this little tray that comes. This you can have brushes and everything. And this is stiff, so it has a plastic insert. And the bottom here has a plastic insert and the top has a plastic insert. So it's relatively stiff. So inside this, you see a pocket on each side there. There are pockets here with pleats for you to put stuff, cotton, Q-tips, makeup jars, lipsticks, and stuff like that. If you have a lot of bottles and stuff, you could put them in here and not use this, or you could put them on top of this little tray that comes. But it's pretty cute. The zipper goes all the way around here. It's one long zipper, so it opens fully. And as you see, it's little box corners on each side, so it opens up a little better. We have other color combinations here, as you see, with pink and black. Still a zipper pocket in the lid with mesh. Here I have two different colors zipper pouches and this little tray. I have used waterproof canvas for the inside, and then it won't leak into your suitcase because this is a travel toiletry bag after all. Then you see I have these little strips or decor strips on the zipper, so they're easier to grab a hold of. And you see the handle is fastened with two rivets. If you think these are a little too big, you just skip the top side panel and just sew the zipper straight onto the lid. You ready to get started? Let's do it! So when you print out the pattern, you get a material list with what you need. You get a cutting plan, all the different, here are all the different fabrics that you need to use, the lining, interfacing, and plastic inserts that I also used. That's these. That I find it so practical because it makes the bottom really nice and stiff and it doesn't break. Here is a test square. This is what you print first, just to measure that your printer is printing in the correct size. Measure this and see if it really is 2 inches. If it is, then you can print the rest. If not, you have to adjust your scaling of the printer. Maybe you have to print smaller or larger. And here we have labels that you cut out and clip or pin to each of the fabric pieces that you after you have cut them out. And it's easier to stay organized. Here are the pattern pieces in one big heap. The first thing you do is you tape the pieces together. Like this side panel here comes in 2 pieces. You tape them together and then you tape it together with another piece of paper where everywhere where it says fabric fold. It's actually better to do this before you cut this piece. You just tape the paper to it, then you fold it, and then you cut the whole piece out. And it's so much easier when you have the whole pattern piece to work from. And here are the strips. If you want to use strips of a fabric or cork or vinyl, you use that. If not, you don't have to. You can make everything in 1 color or 2 colors. So I have made strips on also the top lid panel. Each of the pattern pieces tells you what to cut it in. Red is the main fabric, yellow is the lining, and gray is the rubber foam. So you cut each thing that you need. Here's the secondary main fabric for the decor strip. When it says cut it 11 inches, yeah, it says here cut it 11 inches long, all in total, then you do that. You measure from there, to there, 11 inches, add the little piece of paper on, and then you have the decor strip for the handle in this case. I've also made an extra pattern for the plastic inserts. This is the bottom, and the bottom has a rubber foam. So in order to make this much nicer, you have to quilt this, and quilt it in a pattern. You can quilt it diagonally, or you can quilt it in squares or stripes, whatever you want. You take double-sided tape, and actually I have even cut the bottom a little larger. Everything, all the pieces that need to be quilted, I cut them a little larger, so I'll fine cut them afterwards to make sure that they're large enough, because when you quilt something on rubber foam, it shrinks a little along the way. So I put the rubber foam there. I'll cut the seam allowance from the rubber foam like this. You don't have to be totally accurate. Nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to know. Do it the best you can. And then you can pretty it up afterwards. Thing is, you don't want the rubber foam in the seam allowance here. This just looks bad. It wouldn't have any impact. So, starting on the center, make it not too hard, but just so I can see it. And then I'm using the width of this ruler just to keep me, just to get it straight and get even distance between the lines. So I do the rest of that. Then you actually have to do the same on the top, which is going to be the white one. I would not mark with a blue pen on this white though, but that also has to be quilted onto this rubber foam. Inside we have 2 zipper pockets, and I have chosen this fabric for the lining of them. So they come like this, zipper on top here. And also we have a little tray in the center. So I'm going to have that on the inside and the blue on the outside, or the right side of the blue. So it's going to be like this, and with a little handle that goes across there. This is the top of the lid that comes, that will be seen through this. And this is the side. So these are the strips. So you lay out the strips in the pattern you want. Lay it out, and then you lay out this one, so it's easier. And then you put clips on them, and I would start from the center. If you want one color, you just cut this whole side in one color. Or you can have only two different colors, or be creative and make the pattern you want with scraps or without, depending on what you like. Let's jump to the sewing machine and sew all the strips. We are ready to start sewing our little artwork. Let's start from the center, because that's easier. Let's start with this blue one here. So what we'll do is we'll take the next one, add it on top of it, on top of the blue one. Try to make sure it's really vertical and it has a regular seam allowance on it. Longer stitch length. Now we top stitch on top of that. Fold it out and top stitch. And then the next one. Okay, so now here we have the side. What we need to do is cut it according to the pattern. Cut the edges and make them straight and clean. I know that the rubber foam here, the width of the rubber foam, that should stay the same, so that should not be a problem. So I do it from the wrong side because it's easier to see. Okay, so now we need to just measure. This is center back. I think we just have to sew these two together. So now that's ready to sew. So we do the same with this part here. We cut the sides, make it even. Oh, I find it easier to actually just use the scissor because it's a little thick here. And then we have this little tray. I'm going to have this as the outside, this as the inside of the tray, and our little handle is going across here. So I can make the handle now by ironing it in two, folding it in two, folding then again into each part and then into again. This is our little handle. So I'm going to iron that. The first thing I'm doing here is sewing each of the corners on both the lining and the outside exterior for this tray, little tray. This tray is perfect for little brushes and stuff like that. So I'm going to sew that and then do the same on this. There, now we're ready to sew these corners. And then we're going to iron the handle and sew that. Let's top stitch a little on the strap. And I like to sew from the same side so I get less twisted strap. Great, so now I'm going to sew all of the four corners on the main and all over the four corners on this lining. Now I do the same with the lining. I'll take a little more seam allowance than I did on the other. There, now I'll go and press. Here's a tray with all four corners sewn on the exterior and the lining. Here is our finished handle for the tray. So let's put the right side of the handle there and then make sure it goes there and then it goes a little up because we need it to be. So let's fasten that there and then we baste it in place. When we sew this on, let's push the corners in because I think we have to cut off. Yeah, I think the lining is going to stick a little more up than the exterior. Now we can sew around the top edge, but we want to put a little plastic insert in the bottom here, and we need to do that on the short edge, so we leave that open. I think in order to control this little handle for the tray, we should baste it in place, because otherwise it might go askew. So we do that, and also it gives it a little extra strength. So I'll make sure it's straight. Now we can sew around the top edge here, but remember we need to leave one side open. We need to keep it open so we can turn this through. These are straight lines. I don't think we need to cut any of the seam allowances off. Just grabbing far end corner on the far end and pulling it through. We press the two, press it apart from each other. This has to go on the top, like this. We're going to top stitch this, but I think I'll press it first. After we have sewn this top stitch, we're going to press these sides in, and we're going to sew a little top stitch to make it a little straighter there. Let's put this It's good to have this plastic inserts on the bottom because when we lift this up, the things won't poke out on the bottom. Now we can close this top edge and then check to make sure the lining is not too large. So now we can top stitch around here. I'll stop it there and start again because I don't want to fight with this handle. We'll top stitch from one side to the other, only say 1/8 of an inch, not much. And then we do the same on the other side. We really don't want to sew in that plastic insert, so push that aside, and also the pattern for that is smaller, so it's made to fit inside without having to sew through it. There, and then we have to do the same on the short sides. We don't need to reach all the way to the sides, corners, because we can't really do that. I'm pushing the insert away. So now you see it's much more shapely. These are the two zipper pockets, the loose zipper pockets that are inside the toiletry bag. I have now attached one long zipper. I think it's fun to make the zipper this way. So instead of cutting the zipper in two and making it like that, I'm going to use one on each side, and then no zipper goes to waste. And here I have marked up a little, I'm going to stop the sewing, stop my seam a little before the end here, so I can add on a zipper tab. Then I have this lining, this cotton lining I'm going to use for this, and it's a pretty sturdy fabric, so I'm not going to, it's a canvas, so I'm not going to interface that extra. I'm starting a little ways from it. Let's sew the next one. And now we're adding the lining, sandwiching the zipper between. You can do this in one operation if you're brave. I like to do it in two, so I have more control. You do that on both sides, and now we will sew from the side and stop before the end, so we can still add the zipper tab. 1.5 to 2 inches from the side. I can finger press it, or press it. So now I have pressed this a little bit. So now and it's important to cut the zipper as wide as the pocket. Now we're ready to put the zipper pull on. Maybe you think it's weird that I have a silver zipper and gold zipper pulls, but I tell you, that's not the weirdest thing I've ever done. Okay, so here is how it's going to be, and that looks, I have to even up a little bit. So what I want to do now is put this zipper tab on. Here's the zipper, and here's the end of the pocket. I know that the side seam of the pocket is going to go there, and I know that my little zipper tab is going to have to stop a little further in from that. So let's cut this much off. Yeah, that's a little more than 1/2 inch. I'm cutting off the zipper on that side. I'm going to sew this little zipper tab on, fold it back, so it's only going to be this wide when I'm done. We will just sew across it here. Sew carefully over the zipper. Fold it over, and then top stitch. We only want a narrow little thing. We don't want it to be in the side seam at all. We can sew the lining and the exterior of the pouch together all the way to the side, on both sides. The zipper tab, we put a finger in that and push it up towards the right side of the little zipper pouch. All the seam allowances are pointing to the lining. Let's sew along the side here. So we leave an opening in the side here. And then we can sew the bottom. We are already cut off a little extra to make the lining fit snugger. And now we will make a little box corner. You can measure so you're sure you get it right. The center seam has to be on top here. Has to be in the center. And you can mark up here with a pen if you like. And then it's important to make a little boxed corner on the lining part as well. And then, when you're happy with that, you can turn the bag. Turning is always hard work. It's easier to leave an opening at the bottom because it can be bigger, but then you'll see that seam inside your bag. When we leave it on the side, no one will see it. But of course you can sew it by hand so it's more invisible. Again, we push out this zipper, push out the box corners, push the lining in it, and you see it's pretty open, so you can leave your jewelry or things inside this little pouch. We'll press it and we'll sew the other one just the same.